Hello and welcome to this edition of the Monthly Mystical. Today we are going to interview Mr. Carl Dinsdale once again. We're going to be talking about the ancient and accepted rite, or otherwise known as the Rose Croix, which is very exciting. So let's get him in and get going. If I can remember how. Here we go. And there we are. Hello, how are you?
Hello. I'm very well, thank you. Are you?
I'm good, yes, all good. So we're talking about the ancient and accepted rite today. Excellent. So let's get going, cracking on with that. Should we start with maybe how it comes about, how it sort of envelopes itself into Masonry?
Well, that's a bit like everything else in Masonry. You pay your money, you take your choice. It's interesting. You had some crazy theories going back that were propagated in the sort of 1700s, late 1700s, going back 100 and odd years. The leaders of the Jacobite Revolution were involved with it, you know, the old pretender, the young pretender, and so on. Hence why it was called the Scottish Rite. But actually, that was debunked probably not until the late 1800s or 1900s. I think more nearer the truth is it was a set of degrees higher than the first three, the usual initiation, passing and raising that you would get in a craft lodge, and which the entire world orders could understand, you know, and accept. And there was a set of higher degrees from what they call the 4th degree up to the 25th degree then. And these were propagated mainly in France and pulled together. Estienne Morin was his name. I suppose the biggest thumbs up has to go to him. He propagated and started working these degrees in Haiti, of all places. He formed a lodge he called an Ecossais lodge, a Scottish lodge. And that became the foundation for the ancient and accepted rite, because that then spread. Like anything in life, when something becomes very popular, suddenly everybody wants more and more of it. And then they found this group of degrees, if you like, which I think they called the Rite of Perfection, or it had various titles. It depended on which year's journal you got hold of. But it was 25 degrees put together. Well, that kept people very happy for a long time. And over the years, it became very popular, particularly anywhere people were traveling to and from these countries back to Europe or into North America, particularly. And from there, eventually, certain people were given patents to expand this rite of perfection. And 4 of them were very influential in bringing about the ancient and accepted Scottish Rite. Eventually, in about 1801, 1802, just at the turn of the century, 11 got together, very senior Masons got together and said, and crafted what we would now recognize straightforward as the ancient and accepted Scottish Rite. And they obviously added the further degrees to make it 33 to represent Christ's life, etc. And the degrees they added in actually were all sorts of, anybody who's a Rosicrucian would recognize very strong Rosicrucian elements in some of the added ones that tended to be added in between the 19th and 29th degree to make it 33.
Mm.
And then there's a bit of confusion because, of course, this group then became known as the Supreme Council of the Southern Jurisdiction of North America, some fancy title. Well, even fancier than that, it became the Mother Supreme Council. But they eventually granted patents authorization for other Supreme Councils to work throughout the world in different orders. But some countries didn't call it ancient and accepted. They called it just ancient accepted Scottish Rite. And of course, you got the English, who had no intention whatsoever of having the title Scottish in anything they were going to work because they're pompous. And of course, so in England, it was known as the ancient accepted Rite. They weren't going to give the Scots credit for anything. We weren't going to give anybody credit for anything. But since then, it's been worked throughout the world. There's various different rituals for many of those degrees. I think in virtually every one, the first, second, and third are accepted that they're worked in a craft degree. There are some orders that work what's known as a Scottish Rite, and you start from the first. So you're initiated there, passed, raised, and then on through the rest of the degrees.
Mm.
Most orders that work the ancient and accepted Rite as part of a whole group of degrees only tend to work some of them.
Right, yeah.
Most focus on the 18th, which is a Rose Croix, the Knight of the Pelican and Eagle, which is an absolute fabulous degree, and quite often people call the whole order Rose Croix, because that's the most well worked, well known degree, the 18th of the whole order. And for instance, if you were a member of UGLE and you'd been raised as a Master Mason, 4 weeks later you could be perfected into the 18th degree. And quite a few orders will do that, whereas some American orders, some European orders, you will start from the first and work your way through a lot more of them. They might not work every single one, but they'll work a lot.
Mm.
Whereas our order, we focus heavily on the 18th, but we work in full the 15th, 16th, and 17th. Not everywhere over the country, but we do. One of our chapters works the 4th, the 9th, and 13th, but not the 15th, 16th, and 17th. So you could sort of get most of them by
just
going around the
dodging
country.
about.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah, but to be fair, there are plans once, if this virus ever goes, we will have a couple of chapters both in Europe and in England and Wales that will work the degrees in a sort of European style, so that if people want to actually go through most, if not all, of those degrees, they can. Whereas a lot of our members will work the 18th if they don't have to go through the others if they don't want. In fact, some of ours, funny enough, have gone up to the 17th and stopped there because they find the 18th too religious, etc., and that's not their bag, and that's perfectly understandable. So we do have brethren that sort of stop at the 17th, but we have the 18th, and then of course we work in full the 30th, 31st, 32nd, 33rd, and like all others, we have a Supreme Council, but you know, ours isn't made up of all 33rd degree. You get the 33rd for either being the Lieutenant Grand Commander, like the Deputy of the Order, or being the Sovereign Grand Commander. That's the only way you get it.
Okay.
And once you've done your year as that, you're off. Somebody else goes on. It does rotate matters. But of course, our Supreme Council has members from the Philippines, Germany, France, Spain, Portugal, England, Wales. So it's an international Supreme Council. You know, and we have members of the 33rd in La Reunion as well, etc. So we're all over the show.
Yes, amazing.
But that's a sort of background to it. It gets a bit confusing when people can get very imbued with the idea you either have to work the York Rite or the Scottish Rite. Well, that is a sort of European, North America view of the world. English-speaking Masonry, apart from North America, tends to be, you know, you work your craft and then you've got all these additional degrees, including the ancient and accepted rite, and you can pick and choose which one of those you wish to be involved with. One doesn't naturally follow another, but that's historical, for historical reasons. So just the fact that we actually work, and we do call it the ancient and accepted Scottish Rite, the fact we work that doesn't mean we follow the Scottish Rite from 1st to 33rd degree.
Yeah. So for example, so there is somewhere that could start you off from your first initiation and goes all the way through. But if you would say, like, if somebody was to come to you and say they would have to be a Master Mason to get into the ancient accepted Scottish Rite, is that correct?
Yes, and they'd have to have a belief in a Trinitarian faith.
Right. Yeah. But
hence why we do.
Is that not the question for the beginning anyway, or is that different?
No,
as a Mason, I mean.
Degree, of course, it's any faith. It's to have a faith.
Oh, okay.
But it's specific once you wish to go into the 18th degree.
Right. Oh, right. I got you. Okay. Yeah. So, and how far back does that go? As far back as, for instance, the initial Masonry?
Yeah.
Does the whole thing go back that far?
Yeah, but bear in mind that the initial Freemasonry was purely Christian based. That changed. To be fair, some orders have de-Christianized even the ancient and accepted rite. And they, instead of you taking an obligation theoretically in the presence of Jesus Christ, you would take it in the presence of humanity, and so on and so forth. So, again, there are differences between one Supreme Council and another. They've done that so that everybody, every member of their order could be a member of it, whereas most don't. There is a prerequisite. It is what it is.
And I understand that there's obviously a story behind so the actual ceremonies themselves. There's obviously stories behind that. Are you allowed to indulge in any of that stuff, or because it kind of has a story, doesn't it? But
but I mean, there is in every one of the degrees. I mean, quite a lot. Quite a few, sort of from 14 to 16, are very short. In fact, in a lot of orders, are conferred straight off by name, and the ceremony not work. Even if you were to work some of the ceremonies, they would probably only be about half an hour long. And a lot of the ones between the 19th and the 29th are the same. We do work the 29th in full sometimes as well. From memory, Prince of the Sun, Rising Sun. A lot of names, there's a lot of titles to remember.
Yes.
But they at night of St Andrews. Anyway, whatever. But they are quite sure the 17th can be long if it's worked. Some of the rituals I've seen for the 17th, the 13th isn't as a beautiful degree. It tends to be the long ones that get worked, 4th, 9th, 13th, 17th, 18th, 29th, and then, but even the 30th is a long, beautiful ceremony. But the 31st and 32nd are quite short, even worked in full. You know, they're certainly under an hour long. Even the 33rd. The two real key points are the 18th and 30th, where people who believe in a deeper happening through ceremonies would say you change at the 18th and you change again at the 30th.
Okay.
You know,
Yeah.
again, that these are just my personal thoughts, and each to their own. You know, they would say there is a understandable change in you when you work the 18th and when you work the 30th. The 31st, 32nd are more appointments. And of course, the 33rd is a beautiful degree, as sort of the crowning, you know, the final degree. Whereas in our order, we tend to, you know, you can receive the 30th degree once you become a general or a prelate in your own private chapter. Once you've ruled,
so that's like going up in the ranks, like
it's a bit like being a warden
an
in a
officer,
craft
or
lodge.
yeah.
So you qualify for your 30th degree the following year once you become a general in your own private chapter or prelate. 31st you receive if you have been enthroned as most wise sovereign and ruled your private chapter. 32nd you get only if you served on Supreme Council, and again 33rd only if you served in the capacity eventually as the Sovereign Grand Commander or their deputy. So it's they're more appointments. You know, you can't apply for those.
No.
You can't apply for the 30th, you know, the 31st, 33rd, like you can most other degrees. You can't say, "Oh, I fancy that. I'll have a go at that, please." You know, I know somebody who's got that. Can I have that? Can I come into that? You know, it's not like that. Which makes it a bit more special as well.
Yeah.
Yeah. So there's a lot of differences throughout the world, but you would recognize them all. You know, if you were involved in one, you would recognize them in another.
Yeah, so they're all like they're similar, just worked slightly different, but at the same. Yeah. Or is it exactly the same context, just different?
It's probably exactly the same context. How you hit certain degrees might be different from one order to another. You know, waiting periods or what you have to do from one to another might be different. But the structure would be roughly the same. The titles are roughly the same. The ceremonies, I would say, similar, but different. You know, I know some orders that are very, very strong on saying in the 18th degree, Rose Croix, you pass bread and wine around. And they're very, very strong on saying there's no association with anything, you know, religious in that. Well, whereas in our order, there's an extreme association.
Yeah.
You know, I know some orders that ban the words consummatum est when you took away the word. Jesus' last words on the cross. Well, of course, in our order, you do say that. There's a reason you do all that. And it hasn't been diluted out, but I understand why some dilute it out. We don't, you know, it's so like I said, you pay your money, you take your chance, you know, but then again, unless you actually studied all these different rituals, and we're very lucky, we have a group that translate all these European rituals, which enables us, if we ever get the chance with this virus, going forward, to work these different rituals, you know, and see where we land with them. You know, understanding that, you know, there'll be sort of specialist chapters for people who are really into that sort of deep esoteric working of the rituals, because a lot of it was stripped out over the years. You know, understand taste change and political and religious pressures change, and things get amended and altered and lost in time. Unless, like I say, unless you actually studied all these rituals, you perhaps wouldn't realize that, you know, there's 10 different rituals for 1 degree, you know. Why would you?
No,
you'd just be happy in the one that you're involved in.
That's right, yeah. So is there anything after the 33rd degree, or is that you at the end then? You've got your cake and you've eaten it?
As far as I'm aware, of course, we have some on the, you know, continental side of our order that are, you know, very, very involved in the Memphis Misram, that, you know, that will go up into the 90s, 90 degrees. But again, with only certain degrees worked, you know, but that includes the ancient and accepted Rite group of degrees. So in our order, yes, that would be it. That would, you know, the 33rd, that would be it. But that makes you know, it's still subservient to the Craft Grand Lodge and the Grand Master of the Craft. You know, it's an appendant order to that. You know, the bottom line, in my view, and I think in our order's view, is Master Mason's the top rank, and everything flows from there. If you want to open up a more a different focus on different parts of Freemasonry, by all means, we work all the additional degrees. But being a Master Mason is a key aim, and then ruling your craft lodge. Anything after that is over and above. But I would encourage anybody that's likes icons, likes that sort of as that sort of event, that the 18th degree is absolutely fabulous. Indeed, so a lot of the other ones, you know, the 19th, 13th, 15th, 16th, 17th.
I think also because you don't meet that many times in the year. I think you could never get bored anyway, I think would be the correct answer, would it not? Because you don't see, and then obviously there's so many bits and pieces to it that you could never get bored anyway.
Our additional degrees at any particular site throughout the country, you know, if you're in a Rose Choir chapter, it only meets 2 or 3 times a year. You know, so one of those is the enthronement of the new Most Wise Sovereign. Interestingly enough, one of the few degrees that doesn't throw everybody out whilst you enthrone a new sovereign, and beautiful words in it, you know. If you want to know how religious it is, you know, you will get the installing Most Wise Sovereign, who will say, "Behold your Most Wise Sovereign." Well, you know, that's a direct take from Christ on the cross, you know, "Behold your Son." It's very, it's all there if that's your bag in Freemasonry to enjoy. You won't be disappointed if you just read through a couple of pages of understanding beforehand. You know, that whets your appetite. You certainly won't be disappointed by the ceremonial and the pleasure of the accepted Rite. You know, but as you said, so sometimes it's difficult because unless you do travel around the country, our additional degrees in your location will meet twice, sometimes 3 times a year. So, you know, it's something to, it's not like you're meeting 7, 8 times a year where it starts to sink in a lot quicker.
Yeah.
You know, it does take a long time, and a lot of effort, but then again, some things are worth it, aren't they? And some people are naturally gifted. That, you know, some people can look at, I don't know, they must have some magical ability.
Have you got any books that you can recommend on the Scottish accepted rite? Or
you know, I haven't thought about that. But if you tap it in, there's a lot. The what Albert Piker wouldn't read, bless. As much as I like some of his stuff, he wrote for the States, Morals and Dogma.
Oh, okay,
and if you, some people will swear by that. If you can work your way through that, you're a better man than me, Gungadin. It's incredible, but it's very powerful. But no, I wouldn't recommend him. I think if you tap in a search, there are quite a lot of good ones. For the life of me, his name escapes me. Brigadier whatever, wrote a lot. He was, and it was good. It was good and sound and understandable. It wasn't deep and esoteric that literally blew your mind, which Albert Pike probably would for most people, I would think. But no, I haven't. I'm sorry to say, it's a long time since I read a book on it.
okay.
Yeah,
But I'm sure we can.
I tend to read different rituals of it and get very interested in why they do it slightly differently.
Can somebody find the rituals online, or are they secret?
Well, they're not secret, but the only thing I would say to them is, yes, you can find virtually any ritual online. Yeah, you can find virtually any ritual online. It might not be the one your order actually works that you found, but it'll bear a very striking resemblance. But if I was in an order and had the opportunity to work it, I wouldn't read it before. I never have read the thing beforehand, because that will spoil the day that I do actually go into it. My way of thinking. But yes, they're all on there. You know, there ain't many secrets in Freemasonry. People,
no, not really.
really ought to calm down. You know,
yes.
The secrets of Freemasonry is how you look after everybody and try and make the world a little better place. That's the true secret of Freemasonry.
Yeah, definitely.
Not passwords that have been changed over the years, or terminology that's been altered. You know, handshakes and signs that have been altered over the years. People ought to calm down a bit.
Yes. Oh well, that's yes, that's fascinating. That's just opened up a few people's minds, hopefully, and they'll be interested in not only just going through the 3 degrees of your normal masonry, that to go ahead and carry on up until right up to the top would be fabulous. So well, yes.
Any questions? Just fire them in, and then try and work through them.
Yeah, sure. We may have another discussion about all the questions we're going to get with any luck.
Well, yeah, but it's only personal view.
Exactly.
Freemasonry is a personal view.
That's right. Well, thank you very much again.
You're welcome.
Indulging everyone.
No problem.
No doubt we'll see you again soon. Thank you very much, Carl. Have a lovely day.
Jackie.
See you later.
Bye.
Bye. Well, more excitement. Well, isn't that good? Yes. So if you're already a Master Mason and you didn't know much about the rest of the degrees, I hope that's inspired you to possibly to go ahead and find out some more information. I'll put down a link for the Modern Mixed Masons underneath this video in case you're interested in joining Modern Mixed Masons. And if I can find any links to a really cool book that's nice and easy read for you, then I will pop that in underneath as well. I hope you have enjoyed this interview, and please subscribe to my channel. That would be amazing, helping small businesses around the country. So you're helping mine. That would be absolutely fabulous. So subscribe, like, share, and obviously any questions, please put them in the comments and we will definitely answer them straight away. All right, I hope you have a fabulous day, and thank you for joining me on the Monthly Mystical. And I'll see you all again soon. There's more interviews to come. I'll see you soon. Have a great, fabulous day.